I'm Dr. Eboni January. A young woman who grew up in East St. Louis, just across the river from St. Louis, where I now practice medicine as an OBGYN. Grew up with modest beginnings, humble beginnings with a strong family background, family who really pushed me to be the best me that I could be despite, adversity. Someone who went off to college and struggled academically, but still was determined, still was self-motivated to reach her goals, determined to make a better life for both herself and her family. I decided to write Educational Athlete because I've been mentoring youth and young adults for over 10 years now. And many people would ask me questions as to what it took in order to be a doctor. When I was in elementary, junior high, high school, I rarely struggled academically. However, when I got to college, there were so many things that I struggled in academically, science being one of those things. I was just fine in English, just fine in math, but science was one of those things that really just exposed the things, my deficiencies, the things that I didn't learn well, or the things that I was not taught before I got to college. So those were some things that I struggled academically with. When I started to struggle academically in college, I realized that I didn't necessarily get the necessary tools that I needed in order to be successful. So one of the things that I tried was going to my counselor, for example, and she told me, you know what, your grades are not good enough, in biology you're getting this, in chemistry you're getting this, you should probably not become a physician. Me being self-motivated, I didn't accept that. I didn't accept it at all, because in my mind, I was going to be successful and I was going to win. And if she was telling me that I shouldn't be a physician, I was going to find people who said, you know what, be a physician. And this is the way to be a physician. So some of the things that I did in order to increase my grades in biology, chemistry, was that I found tutors. I found students who had done well academically in those specific courses. I actually went to the teacher because what I realized is that I was studying the same way for every single course, and not every single course requires a certain type of study. Like for instance, if I have a diabetic patient, I may not treat a diabetic patient the same as as every diabetic patient. There may be different things that I have to tweak in order to make them successful or make their blood sugars improve. So I noticed that with regards to academics. With chemistry and biology, I had to study a different way. Whereas chemistry, it was repetition, learning the concepts, doing the questions. Biology was one of those things where, I had to do a lot more. I had to talk with the professor. I had to get into the head of the professor because different professors teach differently, just like you learn differently. And so if your professor teaches different than how you learn, then you have to start switching your brain in order to learn how they learn. And so that's when I said, you know what, I got to get a coach, whether it was a professor, whether it's someone who had took the course prior to me, whether it was a tutor, or whether it was a classmate who was doing well. I had to find help because obviously I was not going to find it with that counselor. A coach can be anywhere, A coach doesn't necessarily have to be, if your child wants to be a pharmacist, it doesn't have to be a pharmacist. If your student is doing poorly in biology, they don't have to be the teacher. It could be someone who just knows the concept, knows how to lead your child to success. So some of the places that people have found me, LinkedIn, for example, that's a great place. I've had a 14-year-old reach out to me on LinkedIn, on social media. I've had parents reach out to me, on Facebook, friends of friends, people that I've gone to high school with, and say, you know what, my daughter's now 16 and she wants to become a doctor. I know that, you and I went to high school together. Can we sit down with you? So those are places that you can find coaches. I also do an assessment with the parents and the child. So parents are welcome because you have to know, as a good coach, you have to know what's going on in the background. What are the dynamics, the family dynamics as well? What are distractors? So a good coach can be found LinkedIn, friends of friends. When you go to, let's say your child is involved in sports, the parents sit next to you, talk with them, see if they'd be willing, if they're in a field that, your child wants to get into, see if, they'd be willing to. Also, say your child's in junior high, high school, a college student. say that they can mentor them. Coaches are all over. And there are certain coaches that you may not personally know. You can find YouTube as coaches. There's a guy, Grant Cardone, who's all over the internet, or Gary Vaynerchuk, who they are these business gurus. And I've never met them personally, but when it comes to business, they're like a coach of mine because I utilize the tools that they have given me in order to be, a successful businesswoman. I bought their books, things like that. So a coach doesn't have to be a person that you know physically or someone that you just follow, and may emulate who's on the internet or YouTube. Those are places to find good coaches. One, a good coach is open-minded. A good coach may not be on the path that you're on, meaning they may not be a physician, but they may potentially be a business person. But they have that one quality in that they are successful. So they know what it takes in order to be successful, whether they were a doctor or a lawyer, what have you. A good coach is open-minded. A good coach knows that a student or whoever they're coaching is going through things that they may not necessarily know about. So they have to remain open-minded and understand why this student is performing the way that they're performing. Why did this student choose this route as opposed to that route? So a good coach has to be open-minded and not so rigid. A rigid coach is almost like the worst to deal with because there's certain things that you cannot necessarily convey to that coach to get in your head or whoever it is to know that this is the best way that I need to be coached. A good coach is malleable. A good coach is someone who I'm not going to use the same technique with every single student. As I stated previously, is that people learn differently, just like teachers teach differently. So a good coach is not going to use the same technique with every single student. A good coach is someone who not only meets you where you are, but sees you differently, someone who instills values in you, someone who actually says, you know what, I see you in this place and I'm going to get you to this place. I'm going to get you through the situation that you're in now, but I'm also going to give you the tools in order to get you further, or I'm going to lay the foundation so that you are successful no matter what it is that you do and in the future, not just in a particular course, not just in biology or chemistry or engineering, but I'm going to give you the tools necessary to be successful throughout life, whether it's graduate school, medical school, law school, whatever the case may be. A good coach is going to set that foundation and give you tips to be successful throughout life, not just where you are. Here it is, as a parent, you're putting your faith in another adult or a young adult, someone older than your child, to say, okay, lead my child to success. But as a parent, it's very important to ensure the safety of your child. So just leaving this coach alone with your child, you have to make sure that you have really vetted that coach out. You've actually, you spend time, you ask, you follow up with your child to say, how are things going? Is anything inappropriate? Are you learning? Anything that you're worried about with this coach? You have to evaluate, the coach definitely as a parent. And if you're a young adult, also as a young adult, you need to know, okay, is this person crossing the line? Or, are we really here for my success? Or is it that this person is taking an interest in me for reasons other than my success? So as a parent and as a young adult, you really have to evaluate people and you really have to make sure that your safety is actually in the best interest of that person as well. So as a parent, even though you've instilled you may have instilled values into this child, you still have to make sure that you evaluate this coach. You have to make sure that you check behind this coach. You have to make sure that, you follow up with your student. Have that open conversation to say, hey, how things going? And even sometimes students can be a little, standoffish with regards when they found someone who's taken interest in them. And so maybe they don't want to actually say really what's going on. That's when that open line of communication, that's when that interviewing skills come into play that, as a physician that I've learned where, that unbiased, that non-judgmental tone, you want to be real, just neutral when it comes to evaluating this person, asking your child, how is this person? How are things going? Not attacking the person, because then the student will probably kind of, go to bat for that person. So when you're evaluating a coach, you want to make sure that you take a neutral stance and a neutral tone. Many students lack confidence. and you think, oh, it's going to take me 8 years to do this, it's going to take me 10 years to do that. Well, like I said before, a journey of 1,000 miles does begin with a single step. And one of the first steps is to make sure that you're confident in yourself. You are going to fail. You are going to not understand biology. You're going to not understand physics. You're going to not understand chemistry. You're not going to understand English. There are going to be so many things that you do not know, so many things that you're going to fail at. But I promise you are going to get through it. When you are determined, when you remember your why you are doing something, that is the only thing that you should stay focused on. It's no different than running track. The minute you take your eyes off of the goal and look into the other lane to see who's next to you, you stumble, you slow down. Stop yourself from stopping yourself. It's that simple. Stay the course. It is going to be difficult, but nothing that's worth it will come easy. And trust me, you will definitely get there. Be confident, be strong, and stay the course. That's the premise behind the educational athlete, to train the brain the way the athletes train the body, because you are more apt to success. There are only so many slots in professional basketball, baseball, so children are more likely to be successful with regards to education. The educational athlete starts young. Start coaching your children when they're 5, 6, 7 years old. Don't wait until they're high school, they're in junior high school. Use the same effort and energy that you put forth in Pee Wee basketball, Pee Wee baseball, and put that into academics. And I promise you, your student will be successful. And I spelled it all out for you in the book. Many students have told me, you know what? I wish I had known this years ago. I wish I had read your book years ago. Many parents have said the same thing, like, I wish I had thought about this, and now my student's here. So definitely get the book, and I promise your student will be successful.